All right, everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us and good evening. This is our first Tiger Family Talks webinar of the semester, and we really hope that you are going to get a lot out of our discussion this evening regarding homesickness. So our office is here to support you and your family and provide resources to help you support your student success. So all semester on Tuesdays throughout the fall, we are going to be hosting webinars just like this. And we are going to share that information at the end of this webinar. So you'll be able to see all the dates and details and go ahead and mark your calendars. We hope you can join us for other sessions. But really our focus is resources and information in these webinars to help you support your Tiger through whatever challenges or exciting things or just transitions they're facing throughout their first year and first semester. So hello to everyone joining us via Facebook Live and via Zoom. We're so excited. Before we officially get started, I want to go over just a little bit of housekeeping. So for those of you joining us via Zoom, we have our chat feature. In that chat feature, you can say a quick hello, introduce yourself, insert an emoji. That's really a way for you to connect to other people and other attendees that are part of this webinar. If you are interested in asking a question, we encourage you to do so via the Q&A feature, and those should be located either at the top taskbar of your Zoom or the bottom. So you can click those. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put those in the chat. For those of you via Facebook Live, go ahead and put your questions or insert your comments, and we'll get to those as well. We're excited to have everybody on both platforms. So just to get everybody warmed up and get started, I'd love for our families to go ahead and introduce yourselves via the chat or the comments section and let us know where you're coming from. Maybe if you have a freshman Tiger or an upperclassman, we'd love to know more about you. All right. Go ahead. I see some friends in here, some potential new family council members. Y'all can introduce yourselves. And via the chat, if you're on Zoom, you can click all panelists and attendees in order to introduce yourself so that everybody can see it. I'm sure you guys are typing away. Awesome. So while you take the moment to introduce yourselves, I want to say one more little note. If you're using the Q&A feature, we encourage you to use that to ask questions about tonight's topic of homesickness or specific questions for our panelists or our staff members who are presenting. If you have questions that are related to another topic, or you just need general assistance from our office, from Parent and Family Programs, go ahead and email us. Molly put that in the chat. Our email is lsufamily@lsu.edu, and we'll answer your question via our email if it's unrelated to tonight's topic. It's so great to see several of our new family council members here. We've got the Drago family, Christy Hickman, Shelly, thank y'all so much. Johanna is an OG. She joined tonight early, so it's great. We have some people from, looks like, in-state and out of state, so that's really exciting. No matter where you are coming from, I think that this topic is universal. Homesickness can be experienced by students who are from in-state, from out of state, not just our freshmen, as some of our panelists will share with you tonight. So you're likely all joining us because your Tiger is feeling some sort of homesickness, or maybe you think that it might be on the horizon and they just haven't shared it with you yet. Or maybe you're a little sad as a family or parent or guardian and you're missing your Tiger. So whatever the reason is that you decided to join us this evening and get this information, we want you to know that you are not alone and that we have lots of great information to share and that we're here to help. That's why we're here. Many of our Tigers left everything and everything they've ever known. Parents, siblings, maybe a cute dog, pets at home, almost every friend. You know, they left and they came off to campus. And now, for those of them that are staying on campus in the residence halls, maybe they're in a small room and due to some restrictions, they are facing constraints that, you know, students haven't experienced in the past. And so even the most extroverted students might be feeling lonely. Or if your student is a little shy, they might be feeling extra lonely or homesick. These are natural feelings. In fact, 66% of our first year students, they're saying nationally right now, are experiencing some version of loneliness or homesickness, more than ever before. So we knew that this was a topic we really needed to discuss. We wanted to provide you with some tools and tips and advice to help address this and just support your student and encourage your tiger to continue on this journey, and that the transition will happen. It just may take some time. So the focus of tonight, as we've said, is all about supporting your tiger through that homesickness. We are joined by some LSU staff members, which we'll introduce in just a moment, and some current parents and students. And so I'm going to turn it over at this point to Carly Bordelon. She is our graduate assistant for Parent and Family Programs, and she's going to introduce our parent and student panelists. Carly?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out this evening. We're really excited to talk with you about how we can help your tiger more through this difficult time. So we would like to start by introducing all of our panelists. So we'll start with our student panelists. So Marcus, if you'd like to introduce yourself first.
For sure, definitely. Hi, everybody. My name is Marcus Cepeda. My major is civil engineering. I'm a senior now. I'm also a transfer student. I'm from out of state. I'm from Sacramento, California. So I have two of the non-traditional student aspects in me. But yeah, it's just a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcus.
Yeah.
And then we have Alicia, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey y'all, I'm Alicia. I'm a sophomore from Shreveport, Louisiana, and my major is early childhood education with a minor in special ed.
Great, thank you. And we're also joined by some members of our LSU Family Council who are parents of current LSU students. So first we'll have Miss Jenny introduce herself.
Hi, this is Jenny Marty. I have a sophomore tiger. We are in Land O'Lakes, Florida. She's on campus. And she is a fashion and design major.
Awesome. And then Greg and Ellen, if y'all want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ellen Mullen and my husband, Greg. And we have a sophomore who is in business ag.
Great. Now that y'all know who all of our panelists are for this evening, we'll go ahead and jump right into our questions. So our first question, we're going to start with our student panelist. So Marcus, if you can start us off on this one. How long did you deal with feelings of homesickness and ultimately work through them?
I think, well, I went to school in Boston my freshman year, so I kind of had that faraway experience as a freshman immediately. And then coming to LSU, I continue to have those like homesick feelings. I think it kind of stems from I'm such a busy student with the organizations that I'm involved in and with my major that sometimes I don't get the chance to talk to my family as much as I want to. But when I do talk to them, I love just hearing about their day, what they've been doing, what they've been up to, how my pets are doing, how my little sister is doing. Sometimes with me, school is so stressful that I don't really want to talk about it. And I think my mom has done a great job about like realizing that she doesn't really need to ask me about my classwork too often. It's just kind of whatever I give her is what she's going to get. Because for me, calling home is just like a perfect stress reliever. Talking to my parents, talking about what my mom cooked that night, my dad cooked that night. It's just a really, really great stress reliever for me. So, and also a great battle to homesickness for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So how long did you feel homesick, Marcus? Like how long did the transition take for you?
I think the first few weeks is definitely excitement. The minute that I left my parents, that I knew I was saying goodbye and they're about to hop on an airplane and go 3,000 miles away from me, it was like my first feeling of homesickness for sure. But I think like now that I'm at LSU, it's usually like on the weekends when I'm missing my family, especially now that we're mostly quarantined. There's not a lot of events going on. During quarantine, I got to spend the whole entire, summer with my family, and it was amazing. So it lasts over the weekends for sure. I miss watching football with my dad, sports with my dad. But I think the best way to combat it is, talk to them when you feel like you need to, and when you miss them, mention that my dad's a Raiders fan, so I texted him "Go Raiders" yesterday. Sorry to everybody here, but I had to throw it out there. But yeah, feelings of homesickness come and go, but there's always a way to combat it, and it's just talking to your family about whatever you feel is necessary.
Awesome, thank you, Marcus. So now, Alessia, how did you deal with feelings of homesickness and work through it?
So for me, a little background about me. I am the youngest of 9, so I am the baby of the family. And I was always so used to, being around my siblings. We had a huge household and everything. So when I came off to school, it was kind of awkward for me because I was like, where are my sisters and brothers? Like when I come home, I'm coming home to like one roommate instead of 8 kids or 8 adults. Now they were all adults. And it was just kind of awkward for me. So for me, dealing with homesickness, I just made sure I called home very often. For me, it was keeping in touch with all of them and making sure that I knew what was going on at home, and making sure that I knew, making sure that they knew I was okay. I knew that they were okay. And just, keeping up that communication helped a lot for me.
Awesome. And for you, how long did the feeling of homesickness last? Like, how long did that transition last for you as well?
Being completely honest, it's never really ended. I'm only 4 hours away from home, but I'm always missing my mama and my daddy. And so, especially with my siblings being so far away now, we're all spread out. And so it's never really gone away, but I feel like I handle it very well now. I've learned like a lot of coping skills and tips and everything. So it hasn't gone away, but I've learned how to manage it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now on to our parent panelists. So we'll start with Jenny. How did your tiger deal with feelings of homesickness and ultimately work through it?
We didn't even realize she was homesick at first. She was so excited. She had pledged her sorority, so that was all going. Everything seemed to be okay. And then all of a sudden, everything was negative. She didn't like this, she didn't like that, this wasn't making her happy. And then all of a sudden, she wanted to transfer, she wanted to come home. This was not what she wanted to do. She made a big mistake. We couldn't figure out why. And finally, she realized that everything she wanted, which was to go to a big school, go out of state, and, not really know anybody, kind of came back to bite her because she went to a big school out of state and didn't know anybody. So she finally had to admit that maybe I really am homesick. And we were like, okay, so if you really are set on transferring, wait till you're not going to do it right now. Wait till, next semester. And by the time we went to visit her again in November, she had completely changed her tune. She had, found a core group of friends. She had hit her stride, and there was no more talk of transferring again because she finally felt at home. So I think for her, she didn't have a very good roommate experience, so that kind of added to the stress and why she was homesick. We really had to start listening to things she was saying, because when things would take a negative turn, that's when we knew, something's not right, because she was usually so upbeat about everything. So we started checking in with her more, we text with her pretty often anyway, but more texts and, telling her, you don't have to wait until Sunday to call. You can, call us anytime. And that did seem to make a big difference.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Greg and Ellen, how did you deal with feelings of how did your tiger deal with feelings of homesickness?
Well, as far as ours, Jerry's sophomore, is a pretty quiet kid in general. So trying to pull stuff out of him. So he probably didn't even realize he was homesick until actually, to be honest, during this COVID experience, when he was home, he kind of became a little bit of a different, more extroverted, found that he kind of wanted to be around us more. He wanted, I think, when he came home, and that time was actually a great time. I don't know if every parent experienced that same, but it was awesome. It was great. We spent a lot of time and kind of dealt with it as being a family again. And actually in June, we were lucky all our kids were in. And so it was great. And so they were kind of, instead of it being around the holidays, it was kind of a mid-year experience. And I think having his brother and sister home too helped a lot. But he really kind of, it was funny. He just really kind of like, which he never would hardly ever say, so what are you guys doing tonight? It was like he wanted to hang around us and do stuff and be with the family. But we're an hour and a half away from Baton Rouge. Okay. So he is since he was old enough to walk, essentially, he's been in Baton Rouge. He spends, football season in Baton Rouge. And so he's so familiar with it. It's almost like home with him anyway. So Baton Rouge is like a second home, I guess you could say. But honestly, I think he really experienced more homesickness than he thought. And I think he was able to kind of get that out when so really for us, at least one good thing happened with all this COVID experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg and Ellen. So the next question, what tips do you have for students experiencing homesickness, especially due to the unique environment and circumstances of this semester? So we'll start with you, Alicia, if that's all right.
Yeah, so for me, ever since I was little and I went to school, I always had something that I took with me. Like when I was a little girl, I would take my pacifier to daycare with me, or I would have a stuffed animal that I would take with me. And since I've come to college, that hasn't really changed. So I have this blanket that belongs to my mother, and I just brought it with me, and it reminds me, and it's kind of like a security blanket. So one of my tips is to bring something from home that reminds you of home. And something else that I got, this picture back here, it's a mama lion and a baby lion, and it just reminds me of me and my mama spending time together all the time and everything like that. So when I wake up in the morning, I look at it, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna call my mama. I'm gonna chat with her for a little while, and so that was my first tip, was to bring something that reminds you of home, from home to your campus. Also, I would say get involved. For me, when I first came to campus, I've always been like an extrovert. And so it wasn't that difficult for me to like put myself out there, but initiating the conversations and things of that nature was a little bit harder than I thought it would be. And so I went to an involvement fair, an organization fair, and I found out about student government and LSU ambassadors and freshman leadership council. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna put some applications in and just see if I can, get myself more acquainted with the people around me. And that helped a lot. I found like that core group of friends and that community feeling that just made me feel like I was at home, even though I wasn't at home. So I think that was what I would say, was to get involved, like put yourself out there, introduce yourself to your classmates. If you have someone who sits beside you every day, be like, hey, can I get your number, just in case, so we can, go to the dining hall and eat or study together, form a study group, things of that nature. Get involved and bring something from home that reminds you or that makes you feel secure.
I love it. That's so sweet. Okay, Marcus, what about you? What tips do you have for students experiencing homesickness?
Yeah, I completely agree. And what I have from home is I have a picture of my mom from my mom holding me when I was like 4, and it's like literally right by my TV. It's like the closest thing to me. So like my friends will point it out, and it's not even like that embarrassing at this point, but it's, and I also have this thing on my wall. My dad, he's kind of known for like having funny things, like, and saying them for like no reason. But this time I like took it to heart and wrote it down. He said, sharks don't take Mondays off. And so while it's kind of funny, I like took it very seriously. And so it's written on my whiteboard. And every time I wake up in the morning and I feel like not doing any work, I look at that and say, okay, well, my dad's going to make me want to do this work. So I have those two little things in my room for sure. And they help a lot. But I think getting involved is a great option. There's not really going to be anybody to walk your hand, especially this year. Things are very, very different. But the resources are right in front of you as a freshman. You just have to go and find them, whether it's through social media, on Instagram, following LSU in general, LSU Res Life, student government, ambassadors, anything like that on social media. We post a bunch of resources. But also, if you're a freshman living in a resident hall, your biggest resource is your RA, and they're right down the hall from you. Every single one of you, every single freshman has an RA that lives in the same hall as them. Use them as a resource. Use your friends as a resource, and just put yourself out there is all I can say.
Awesome, great. And Alicia, I actually wanted you to ask you about your ambassador connections as well. Would you like to kind of talk about that?
Yes, I do. We're having, it's kind of like a like a big buddy system, matchmaking system, where you have a Google Doc and you fill it out with your hobbies, your interests, your classification, major, and all things of that nature. And an upperclassman fills it out as well. So we have freshmen and upperclassmen, and we read the Google Docs and we match them together. So you have like a big buddy or someone who can help you out. If you don't want to, like call anybody, you can call them, you can text them, you can let them know, hey, I'm kind of struggling right now, I might need some help. But it's kind of like that person that's there for you in all aspects of college life. And it's done through LSU ambassadors.
Okay, awesome. That sounds like a great program to get involved in. Thank you so much. So now we'll move on to Ellen and Greg, if y'all want to talk about what tips you have for families that their tiger is dealing with homesickness.
Yeah, I think that although, my son was only, not very far away, and he came home a lot. And so during his first year, we didn't see a lot of homesickness, but we have 2 other children who went out of state. And so we experienced it a lot with them. And what I found, especially with my daughter, is when I would talk to her, if she, like Jenny was saying, would get negative or, complain about this, that, I would just try to focus more on the positive. And so instead of dwelling on the negative, I would kind of, well, what about this? And what about that? And have you tried this? And give her some suggestions. I found that initially when we first left, she kind of was pushing us away a lot. And I think that was kind of a defense mechanism for her to deal with that homesickness. And so I had to it was hard for me, but I had to kind of take a step back. And instead of calling her every day to make sure she was okay, which is what I wanted to do, I would just text her each morning and say, good morning, or I'd say, have a great day. And when she would text me back, I'd go, oh, thank God, she's alive, But I wouldn't let her know that I was feeling all of that, And so instead, I just tried to stay real positive and upbeat and, give her, and I think she enjoyed the little morning texts that I would send her, just, and then sometimes, little quotes or little, just whatever I felt would be more uplifting for her. We also made a few trips and brought gumbo and brought things from home so that, she got a real taste of home. And I think that the other one thing is I saw her beginning to make her own traditions. Mm-hmm. And so, the next time we went, this is my favorite place to go, and get a coffee, or this is my favorite place to go and get a supper. And she started making her own traditions at her school. And so I think to really foster that is helpful for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jenny, do you have any advice for families that students are dealing with homesickness?
No, but everything Ellen just said, we went through the exact same thing, like almost identical. We did the same with texting her every day, and she and my husband and I, we all kind of swap memes all the time anyway. So that was just one more way to keep in touch. As far as what we did, we came up for family weekend, and that was a lot of fun. And then it was between family weekend and when we visited her in November that the homesickness really set in. So we did bring her home for a weekend just to get, get her out of the situation she felt like she was in, and, come back home and kind of reset, and then go back and, with, kind of refreshed and everything. And then, like I said, by the time we went to see her again in mid-November, like Ellen said, it started her own traditions. This is who I go to this place with, and this is when we do this. And, she had all these things going on that she always did. And, we asked her, we're like, why do you want to transfer? She's like, I don't. I love it here. I realize how much I love it here, and I don't want to go anywhere. So I guess long way to say, Try to visit. And I know with COVID, it makes things a little more challenging, but try to do a regular visit. And if it's, feasible for them to come home, for us, we're 10 hours away. So it was a plane ride. But the visit really meant something to her, and it meant something to us, to be able to see her in her world rather than bringing her back into her old world. We got to go be part of, her new world. She got to show everything off and everything. And I think that was, that kind of made it more personal for her and make it more like, okay, this is my life. And she really, I think, started to connect with where she was rather than where she had been. So yeah, the constant connection and try to visit.
Thank you. Okay, so on to our next question. And we will actually start with Jenny again, if that's all right. So what did you do to help support your tiger through their feelings of homesickness?
Like I said, we had to ask a lot of questions trying to figure out why all of a sudden everything that she wanted or claimed that she wanted was not good enough anymore, or wasn't what she wanted. And what it really was is she did not expect to miss Tampa. She didn't expect to miss Florida at all. And, it was, I think once she acknowledged that she really did, she was able to kind of maybe move past it a little bit and start looking around at where she was and, okay, I had this great opportunity. I'm at this amazing school. So I guess the way we supported her is giving her the chance to, voice her feelings and acknowledge her feelings, but also, like Ellen said, try and point out the positives of, what she was doing and where she was. And she's kind of like, like client-centered therapy. Eventually she comes to it on her own. But it's, giving her the freedom to have that conversation with us if she felt she needed to.
Thank you. Ellen and Greg, do you have anything else to add about what you did to help support your tiger through homesickness?
I know one other thing is that with all of our kids, we encouraged them after the first semester to get a job. And I think that gives them a sense of belonging. And, we were a little afraid that first semester to really push them to do that, although my son in Baton Rouge did. But the other two, we told them by the second semester, we want y'all to, get a part-time job somewhere. And I really think that gave them a sense of belonging. Our son, Jerry, in Baton Rouge, he joined a fraternity. I think that really helped. I think that made him feel more of a part of in Baton Rouge. LSU is a big campus. It's a big place. And so I think that made him feel kind of that smaller group that he could kind of go to, and he started having meals at the fraternity house and all. So I think that was helpful for him. Mm-hmm. What else?
No, I think that, and also, this is, I can't speak, I don't know if Marcus feels this way coming from a student perspective, but I will tell you on the other end of the, as they continue to go, what we found, especially with, we have a daughter, our oldest, and then our middle son is actually at LSU Shreveport Medical School now. But what we found with both of them is they would come home, but then they started getting homesick for school. They started missing it. And I know, Marcus, I don't know if that's how you feel sometimes, but it puts them in a weird spot because now they're homesick, depending on where they're at. There's a little bit of homesickness, but I think that's a natural progression regardless.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And it's one of those things too, distance makes the heart grow fonder kind of thing. Like Jenny, you mentioned your daughter didn't think she was going to miss Tampa. And we all kind of have that feeling. But when I go home, the second I step in my own room, I'm like, you just get this sense of relief. Like, we miss it so much. And then a couple days pass and you're like, okay, where's my apartment? Where's my, but I totally agree, Greg. Yes.
So Marcus, on that note, what did your parents do for you to kind of help support you through those feelings of homesickness?
Yeah, like I just said, I mean, when I go home, I just am like responded with so much love and care. Like they act like I'm a king when I come home, like making me all my favorite meals. asking me if I want to go anywhere or do anything in particular. And that's like an amazing feeling because when you do feel homesick, like you kind of almost can't realize what you miss about home until your parents provide it for you because they've been the one to give it to you like your entire life. So I think like when your student is home, make sure that they feel like they're at home. I guess another thing is my mom will send me random care packages. Like she might say something's coming in the mail or did you get my package yet? And I hadn't gotten it yet or something like that. But my mom will fill up a package with literally the most random things and a card and a note that just says, love you, sweetie. Hope you're doing good. Hopefully school isn't too stressful, something small like that. And I'll read it and I'll just like laugh and smile. And that's just like an amazing thing to receive from a parent for sure.
Yeah, and maybe even send a little something from home too to make less homesick.
Exactly.
Carly, if you might, if I can interject one thing, I can speak as far as our son is concerned. He really feels much better when we do his laundry for some reason. I don't know.
One other thing.
Yeah, cookies is a good thing to send too. That always goes over very, very well.
One other thing is that my daughter did, and I think it's really helped with all of them, is that she made a family chat on her phone, so that when we, text, it goes to everybody. And I think it makes everybody feel a part of, and so she did this little family chat on her text.
That's great. Thank y'all. Alicia, what did your parents or guardians do to help support you through feelings of homesickness?
I agree with everything y'all have said. When I go home, I expect my mother to do my laundry for me because I'm just like, and she's like, well, you've done it all the time at LSU. And I'm like, well, Mom, I'm home now. Like, why can't you do it? And so that's just our little thing. So I do agree with that. And also the family chat. So I remember I created one. So it's like me, my siblings, my nieces and nephews. And one day I just sent a picture and I was like, hey, I'm your favorite tour guide. And then my sister was like, I'm your favorite student. And then my mom was like, I'm your favorite hairdresser. And we were just sending pictures of ourselves to each other. It was the cutest thing. And it just really made my day. So that family chat really helps. Also, I like to say that my mom is very understanding. And I would say that I'm the opposite. Like when y'all were saying that y'all children, y'all tutors, tigers backed away, I called my mom like clockwork. Like I would call her in the morning. I would call her after class. I would call her before I went to bed. I'd just be like, hey Mom, this is what I ate today. And she's like, okay, why are you telling me that? And I'm like, I just want to talk to you. And so, or like if she doesn't answer, I'll call my dad. If my dad doesn't answer, I'll call my sister. And I just go down the line until somebody answers the phone. And that's just how I keep up with everything. My mom was like, you're so nosy. But I'm like, no, I just want to know what y'all are doing. And so that's something that I do often. I did have a point where I kind of had like a moment where my mom had to come get me because I was just feeling so homesick. And I was like, Mom, I don't know if I can do this. Kind of felt like Jenny's tiger. I was like, yeah, I want to go home. I don't want to do this anymore. And my mom, she does hair. And so she was like, as soon as I wash this part of this lady's hair, I'm on my way. And she came 4 hours. She came, we went out to eat, and that's all I needed. I needed a hug. I needed a good meal, and that was all. And that's all I needed was my mom to be understanding. And we still talk all the time. Like I say, the homesickness never really went away, but we cope with it a lot better now. I only call her about 4 times a day now, so that's it's gone down about half. But it's very helpful when my parent is understanding. And they're not like, my mom doesn't get annoyed when I call her all the time. And if I do miss a phone call or if she doesn't answer, she'll call me back or she'll text me and say, I'll call you later. Just having that understanding that I'm missing my mama and she knows that I'm missing her and she's not like, stop calling me, leave me alone, all that. It's just like, yeah, I understand. I'll call you later. I'm at work right now. Or I'll send a picture of what I'm cooking tonight or this or that. And I feel like that really helps, just having that parent being understanding of your homesickness.
That's incredible. You sound like you have a good mother for you.
Yes, love my mama, love my mama.
Okay, so thank you all to our panelists and our student and parent panelists for being open and honest. about your tiger's experience with homesickness. We know that some of the most helpful advice can come from listening to fellow members of the tiger family who have been in your shoes. So I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay now. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Carly. Thank you again to our panelists as well. We're now going to transition over. I want to hear from some of our staff here at LSU to share their perspective. As I mentioned before, LSU is made up of an entire community that wants to support your student. Our office wants to support you and help provide resources to support your student, and many other offices around campus. We are dedicated to you, to helping you. So I first want to introduce Bill Matera. He is the Director of Residential Life and Education. And so he has lots of great feedback to share if you have a student living on campus or several of our first-year residents. Bill?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me join you tonight. Great advice from the parents and students, right, who've lived through it already, so I don't have a whole lot to add. Some of the things I would say, I think that to really highlight is one of the most important things you can do for homesickness, and we talk a lot with our residents about, but this is also true for those with off-campus tigers, is don't let them come home right away, right? So that beginning period, if they get used to that coming back to you all the time, then that's going to be really hard. Our recommendation is usually try to make them stick it out for 5 to 6 weeks if you can, right? Some that's already missed a little bit, but that's really going to be when groups around campus form, when their floor starts to form its community, and the more days they miss of that, the more time they'll feel disconnected, and the gap starts to feel a little bit too big, right, to recover and come back from. And so we encourage you to call and check in and stay connected, but you really want to make sure that they're staying here and starting to force those connections a little bit. Marcus did the plug already that I would have done for the RAs, but our RAs are specifically trained in helping figure out what students like and don't like and getting them connected. And so really, those student peer leaders, a lot of our RAs say they became RAs because they themselves felt homesick. They felt disconnected and they didn't feel like somebody looked out for that in them. And so kind of using them as a resource, encouraging your student. One of the things we know a lot about from research is that a student's likelihood to stay or to leave is based on if they think 5 people will care if they go away, right? So if 5 people know that they're here or care whether or not they're here this week and are gone, then that's what makes them more likely to feel like this has become their second home, right? And so let the RA be one of those 5 people. Learn the RA's name, ask if they've talked to them recently. And that's a tip for you, right? Making sure you start to figure out who are those names your kids are dropping all the time, right? That friend from the sorority, that person they walk with, and start asking about them. Don't just ask about what your tiger did or what they did to class, right? If they're sitting next to Susie in their bio class, ask them about Susie. Well, did you meet Susie, or how was Susie today? Because then you're putting some connection recognition with those folks around them, their suite mate, their roommate, and those other folks, and make them part of your conversation. The other thing I'll give you as a resource, we have full-time staff members that work in all of our communities, residence coordinators, who are also really good at taking that phone call from you, asking some questions, figuring out what it is that your tiger needs, and then making it appear like they just randomly pop by, right? So like sneak attacking them without ever telling them that you called. And so using that resource, calling that full-time staff member in the building, and really kind of having a chat with them about, look, I'm struggling to get my kid connected. Can you help me figure out what may be happening in the building or something I can bring up, right? And what they'll tell you about is, we're doing this program on Thursday night. Why don't you get your tiger to come on down, and I'm gonna look out for them, right? And then they'll get them connected, and then kind of play a little bit of speed data as they connect them around and kind of try them some other connections as they go. And then the last thing I have for you is just really figure out how to practice a little bit of tough love, right? How do you say to your tiger, like, you're fine, right? This is normal. You're learning how to live on your own. You're learning how to figure this out. You've been with us for a really long time, but now I really need you to go get out of your room and make a friend or walk to the lobby, because you are their safest place, right? As a parent and a guardian, but also your home is their safest place. And so you've got to help us bridge that connect to make this home, while temporary and not permanent, start to feel like their home, right? And so if you let them sit and wallow and be upset in their room, and the parents said this great, right? Being like, what are you doing? Go build a tradition. Where do you want to get your coffee? That kind of stuff is really critical to them to start to feel like they own the ability to get through this. Most students experience homesickness. This is incredibly normal. The more severe, the sooner they're going to tell you about it. But those stories of people who don't get there till week 10 or 11, that's likely when the semester started to get hard, right? And that's when those creature comforts they're used to feel like they're not there. And so know that it's totally fine if your tiger's fine today. In 3 or 4 weeks, they may start to feel a little bit differently.
Thank you so much, Bill. That was wonderful. So you mentioned the connection with RAs. You're right. I love that you mentioned the 5 people that, would care if they weren't here anymore. Can you share in these times about what the best way is for a student to reach out and connect with their RA, and maybe how much their RA is reaching out to them?
Sure. So RRAs do a program called intentional interactions. And so you can be sure that they're going to intentionally have a conversation with your tiger 3 times a semester, right? We've only asked for one of those to be in person with a student, but you'll find on the door, most of our RAs have what they call community hours. And those are mostly conducted through Zoom. And they put up little like QR codes where you can go and screenshot it and get into their Zoom. But they create times where they're designed to be on the floor. And then just about every one of our RAs has a group me that they've built for their floor. So it's a connection device. Those of us that are a little older may need, it's like a group chat thing, right? But every floor has them. And so most of the time the RAs can get there. But the other thing is just knock on their door, right? We're practicing COVID protocols. They're gonna ask your tiger to kind of stand back or figure out a safe place for them to sit down and talk. But they're designed to live there for a reason. And so you can find them and knock on the door. But they're gonna reach out to your tiger at least once a month to try to figure out how to connect and kind of make sure that your student's doing well.
Awesome, thank you. And I also have seen some stuff on the LSU Parents page, and maybe some of our families have, about initiatives that Dance Marathon is doing. So can you share anything about those initiatives or opportunities through Dance Marathon?
Sure. So Dance Marathon is one of the 3 student orgs we work with here in Res Life. And so they're working on some initiatives right now to try to connect students to each other, to kind of create some opportunities for social space. Dance Marathon at LSU is a connector organization, I like to call it. And so it's our largest student fundraising organization that works to bring student organizations together behind a common cause. And so they'll be hosting some get to know you events. This Friday, they're doing a seek and find for students to kind of come out and connect. And then also they'll be doing some events later in the month to do some small kind of get to know you, grab and go programs for folks to connect. In addition, each of your halls where your students live has what's called the community council, which are just getting up and running. They've just finished elections. But those are sort of mini hall governments that are designed to be like micro SGAs that can create opportunities for students to connect. Some folks may have bought some activity cards at the beginning of the year. Those are the folks that manage that money. And so if your student's interested in getting involved or connecting or planning other events, that's something maybe they had energy for in high school and that's something they want to do again, it's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door to kind of start to feel out leadership on campus before you head to those larger organizations around campus.
Awesome. Those are wonderful tips. Thank you so much for sharing, Bill. I'm also joined here today by Jacob Brumfield. He is our Director of Campus Life and our Associate Dean of Students, and he can share more of that getting involved piece that several of our panelists mentioned and Bill mentioned with the student orgs like Dance Marathon. Jacob?
Fantastic. Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you to the whole panel because been smiling the whole time. Really appreciating what you brought to the conversation and just heartwarming throughout. Challenging, but heartwarming. Campus Life, we're the place where students can get involved outside the classroom. So we have more than 450 organizations on campus. We carry some of the largest campus traditions at LSU, including Fall Fest, Homecoming, our Holiday Spectacular. And we have activities like our organizations like our Student Activities Board, which is the programming board for the university, and Go Big Baton Rouge, which is a service organization where we can say thank you to the local community for hosting us throughout the year. And Volunteer LSU that has service opportunities each and every month for students to get involved. So we are a landing place and a place to disperse students in those activities and through those organizations. Much like student government, much like Dance Marathon, we talked about ambassadors. So we are another connector for students to be successful in making LSU their home. Absolutely loved what Greg brought out in the conversation with Marcus earlier, and Bill touched on as well about helping students find their heart in a couple of different places. So we know their heart is at home. We want their heart to be here in Baton Rouge, and Bill talked about whether that's temporary or longer term. And those organizations can help you do that. Campus traditions can help you do that. It's not just football, it's not just athletics, and that can help students identify with this great place. We've recently published a 101 things to do at LSU list, and I want to see if our team can share that out, and we'll have that in the notes for families afterwards. And much like Bill talked about a sneak attack, right? So we have resources for you, whether that's the organizations that you all can see without being logged in at TigerLink on our TigerLink system. We have these helpful hints to help Baton Rouge and LSU feel like home. So if that's suggesting that your student who might feel a little stressed, take a walk around the University Lakes. We want the student to take advantage of that, not simply for the exercise, the 4-mile walk, but it's a beautiful place. We want your student to fall in love with the experience of college. We want them to fall in love with other people who are here exploring life and their academics and the things that really interest and guide them. We want them to fall in love with being here. And that list is a great place to start.
That is all wonderful feedback. And Carly went ahead and she put that like 101 things to do. I'm excited to maybe try out some of those too. We all need a little fun around here. Thank you so much, Jacob. I really appreciate it. So now I have an opportunity for, and Molly went ahead and put that Tiger link in the chat as well. So you can see that. And Carly will put it in our Facebook Live comments. So now I want to ask what questions as parents and families who are experiencing this right now or who may experience it if your Tiger hasn't shared with you yet, what questions do you have? You have people who've experienced this, you have staff who are a wealth of resource. Please go ahead and you could put it in the Q&A or you can put it in the comment section if you're on Facebook. But we are here, we want to help you. Our first question that we received is, can our freshmen come home and visit us? Would they be breaking any COVID rules by leaving campus for a weekend? Bill, I think you started to touch on this, so you had a recommendation if you want to answer that one for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, certainly students are going to go home, right? And so we recognize that. We ask that while they're home, they practice all the same rules they would on campus, so making sure to mask up and be responsible. But no, we're not going to monitor that closely, what students are sort of managing that process there. But for sure, you know, again, try to minimize visits home. If they want to come every weekend, maybe put a pause on that. But for sure, when they come home, just make sure they're following those same rules.
Thank you. And I know that Jenny, Marty mentioned, you know, visiting your student, or Ellen and Greg said they brought gumbo. What would it look like right now for students if they wanted to see their family? I mean, obviously there are restrictions in the residence halls. So can you share that as a reminder?
Yeah, for sure. So the restrictions, you know, guests can't come into the building. All of our buildings have patios or outdoor areas. If it's a nice day, you can kind of hang out outside, eat lunch with them. The rest of campus is still open, areas around campus where you can kind of wander around and visit Mike or walk by Tiger Stadium, those kind of things. But we are still right now preserving no visitors inside the building.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so that was the only question I saw so far. What other questions do you have? You can put it in the chat or the Q&A. If you have a question for a specific panelist or staff member that you want them to elaborate on a topic. And Carly, feel free to jump in if there's anything on that Facebook Live that we want to talk about. Okay, so I have a question from a parent asking, what are some suggestions? So I'll throw this over to our students first. What do you do for fun on the weekends at LSU?
Well, this year is definitely different since with COVID and everything. So I've been kind of trying to find my groove. I'm using my weekends to relax most of the time or catch up on school. In a normal year, I would be absolutely spending Saturdays focusing on game day, out there tailgating with family and friends. I've also, our organizations do operate on weekends. So ambassadors, for example, we just had our membership process. We had to run that all weekend long. I'm the club volleyball president. And so there's group chats for a bunch of different, not even just the club team, people that are interested in playing volleyball at all. We'll message in a group chat and say who's trying to play this weekend, who's trying to go play beach this weekend or grass on the parade grounds. I think that just all comes into finding your group of people and people that are like-minded and have the same kind of interests as you, and just determining that for yourself, I guess. Whatever you enjoy doing for fun can happen at LSU.
Thank you, Marcus. You mentioned club volleyball and other club sports. So can you tell us about how you got involved in UREC, and that UREC is open on the weekends, and that could be a great place for students to relieve some stress or maybe some feelings because exercise is really healthy.
Absolutely, and I think TigerLink is the best resource for that. All of our club sports are on TigerLink, and that's just a great way to see the official club teams. But there's also intramurals at the UREC. If you follow them on their social medias, they post about different events that they have. For example, I think there's a Madden tournament coming up. So if your student is a gamer, I've participated in the FIFA, the soccer one. So it's a lot of fun. And they've even made that one virtual now, where we can just be in our own dorm rooms and participate from there. But our UREC facility is amazing. If it's your first time, they'll give you a tour. They'll give you a tour anytime, really. But I would absolutely go and check it out and see everything that they have to offer there.
Thank you so much. Alicia, do you have anything to share about what you do on the weekends right now?
So definitely it is different. I usually would spend my weekends, football and everything like that. But since COVID is here, I got a job, so I've been working kickoff on Saturdays, kickoff LSU. And if I'm not doing that, I am relaxing. I'm just taking that weekend for my time to just debrief from the week. And Saturdays are for laundry, sadly, since my mom was not here to do it for me. And I've found a new passion for cooking, apparently. I never cooked at home because I was the youngest, and they were like, don't touch the stove. And so that was my thing. But now I'm just like, okay, I can kind of cook. Watching my mom and my sisters all these years, I've just been cooking. So every Sunday, me and my roommate, we get together, go to Walmart, go to the grocery store, and we come home and cook Sunday dinner. And that's our thing.
Something else I would suggest is exploring Baton Rouge. This is a city that's very, very unfamiliar to me, and I'm sure for a lot of Tigers, it's the same thing. And there's a lot of cool stuff that's really close to LSU. Government Street is right down the street from us, and there's a bunch of cool shops, a bunch of cool antique stores. I just went to a coffee shop with my roommate the other day. Really, really cool area, so explore anything off campus. I will say I'm the club volleyball president. Our practice starts in 5 minutes, so I'm going to drop off the call. If anybody has any more questions for me, I am on Facebook. You could friend me, send me anything. Thank you, everybody. Continue to stay.
Thank you so much, Marcus. And you can go ahead and I'll put your, people can email us. I'll put that at the end.
Thank you.
Practice.
Thank you.
I think that Jacob's list of campus life, the 101 things to do, is also really helpful and an option for some suggestions for the weekend. So I know
Yes.
you're in Baton Rouge, and you have some lists on there. Do you want to elaborate, Jacob?
Sure. So Alicia, I want you to go to the Red Stick Farmers Market downtown on Saturday mornings. So get your fresh vegetables, get your meat, your dairy, everything you want to cook with, since you want to keep practicing that. Go to the Red Stick Farmers Market, and once a month there is an art market that pops up there as well. But yeah, take a look at that list, because there are great things to do in Baton Rouge, and inexpensive or free for students, many of those listed, including some of our museums the first Sunday of each month. So look at that list, but also contact us in Campus Life. If you're a family member wanting to find something, a resource for your student off campus, we're happy to brainstorm with you. So just like our Res Life staff do some interventions, we do that as well with students.
That's awesome to hear.
I know, Lindsay, too, we found that our kids have gotten involved in their in the local churches, and we're Catholic, so they've gotten involved in Wisdom and not Wisdom.
Christ the King.
Christ the King. I'm sorry, I'm thinking UL. Anyway. Christ the King, and they have a huge focus group that is a bunch of students that just graduated from college, and they really have bonded with a lot of our students, and so that's a good group to get involved with at Christ the King, and I'm sure other churches have the same.
I appreciate you mentioning that. I know several of our other parents and families on panels that we've done in the past have mentioned that, and that can be a really helpful resource too. There are all kinds of ways to get plugged in and find your sense of community, as everybody has mentioned. Terry, in our questions, asked, how do students sign up for club teams? So that's a little more specific, but Jacob, maybe you can share.
Absolutely. So Terry, what your student can do is simply log on to TigerLink and look for sports and see which teams we have. We have about 20 or 22 right now. We're still registering student organizations for the next week. So we'll have a couple more that pop on there for sure. But they can hit the join button or the contact button on TigerLink to get connected with the organization. There's also contact information for the officers, for members, and for the advisor there. So Lots of ways to get in touch with them. There'll be just great contact information that's on there. Our club sports are actually housed out of UREC. So you can also go up to the operations desk at UREC, and they're just as friendly touring you around the building, but they can also tour you around the opportunities they have for club sport opportunities each semester.
Thank you so much. So for questions, if you still have any questions, I appreciate all of our panelists and staff members for helping to answer these and help support you guys. But more questions, go ahead and email our office, or if you have any specific questions for some of these panelists and like them to follow up one-on-one with you or get more information from their area as they've discussed, then go ahead and email us at lsufamily@lsu.edu. And our last slide is going to have our contact information. So I want to share just a few more updates before we wrap up. I want to thank our panelists again. I could not have imagined what wealth of information you have shared. So I really appreciate you taking the time this evening. And I know our families that are going through this or might experience this have a lot of great advice and tips now in their back pocket to hopefully help get through this. So for some updates, I think we're going to pull up our PowerPoint presentation in just a moment. And I want to talk about some additional resources that we have. So on our webinar website, we will link in just a moment. We have a list of some extra articles that you may want to browse, maybe some videos about other families who have experienced homesickness and maybe some coping mechanisms or tips that we have whenever you're having these conversations with your students. So just to reiterate the information that our panelists and staff have shared today, they're really helpful articles. We also have some upcoming webinars. So this is just the first of the semester, but we want you to join us for all of our Tiger Family Talks. So the dates are listed there. We will follow up with you. You'll get this via email. It will be in our monthly family newsletter, and we'll continue to promote it. If you're joining us via Facebook, you can always tune in via our Facebook Live. The Zoom links will be listed all on our website. So Molly just put that in the chat. You can look at that if you're on Zoom. Our next one is going to be on Tuesday, October 6th, and that will be featuring our Center for Academic Success. So the number one concern that we've seen from families recently has been about homesickness and loneliness. But the second thing that we're hearing a lot from you guys about is how to support your student who is, doing online courses, web-based courses, or just navigating that transition and figuring out time management and study skills and really what tutoring options they should be exploring right now. So to get them off on the right start and make sure they can finish this semester with a bang, join us on next Tuesday, or 2 weeks from now, Tuesday, October 6th. We also want to promote the A&B Connections program. We put it in the chat. That's what they listed. Marcus and Alicia both discussed it. And so if your student is looking for another student mentor, basically a big buddy, as she referred to it, that's a great opportunity to get them matched up with someone. So if your student would like someone specifically to talk to, definitely explore that A&B Connections form. We'll put that in the chat now as well. If you have any questions, like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out to our speakers. And I'm going to share just a little bit more information. So our next slide is joining the Family Association. So for families, this is just a plug for what our office does. We support families like you, and we want to provide you with a wealth of information and resources for your student to be successful. I keep reiterating that message because we're really here to do just that. It's super easy to join, and the Family Association comes with so many benefits. For example, access to apply for scholarships, a discount card for discount around campus for some local areas, and then also some special events just for our Family Association members. So if you're looking on taking the next step and getting plugged in and having a deeper relationship with our office and with the university, I encourage you to join the Family Association at lsu.edu/join if you're not already a member. And we put that in the chat for the direct link for you. Our panelists featured here today are members of the Family Association, and they're actually also part of our advisory board called the LSU Family Council. You probably saw them sporting those polos. So we have a great, great community of families, and we're so excited for you to be a part of that Tiger Family Network. The final thing we want to show you before we wrap up for the day is just a quick little survey. So we'll go to the next slide. If you don't mind pulling out your phones if you have access right now, or we'll put the link in our chat as well for the direct link. This is a QR code on your screen. So if you have your phone and want to do it that way, just hold up your phone camera to that and a little button will drop down that you can click to go straight to that survey. We want your feedback, but also we want to know what topics you are interested in learning more about. We want to help you and support you and give you the information that you're looking for. So these webinars are all based on what we're hearing from families. So go ahead and let us know via our survey what we can do to keep supporting you and your tiger. And then our final slide is our email and contact information. So please, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are the resource for you. We are here to help. We want a close connection with you. And that's an awesome way for you to connect with these panelists, as I've mentioned. Email us if you want to talk to someone specifically. We'll give you their contact information, or we can elaborate on some of the resources and advice that they shared here today. So with that, I want to thank you one more time for joining us and thank our panelists and our staff one more time. Your student is not alone in these feelings and this experience, but we are here to help them get through this and be comfortable and ultimately really find that second home at LSU and find that place and sense of community. So we're here. We appreciate you so much. We'll stick around if you have any questions and want to put those in the chat. But with that, we hope you have a wonderful evening and go Tigers.